we first met my guest today last year in early spring, I think it was, when Julie was telling us all about her battle with an eating disorder and how she worked through that and what she has done since then with her foundation. And she's written a book. So we'll make sure that you get the link for the book too, if you want to go back to last year's podcast and that stuff. But Julie's here for a totally different reason this time. And I'm super excited to have her tell us. So welcome, Julie. Welcome back. And could you reintroduce yourself to our audience and then dive right in?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me again. I am very excited and honored to be here for a second time. So thank you. So yes, I'm Julie Allen. I am the owner at Mary Rose Boutique, which is a size inclusive, focus on sustainability boutique, women's clothing boutique, primarily out in the Portland, Oregon area. And I also have a nonprofit. I founded a 501c3 called the Mary Rose Foundation, and that helps fund treatment for people struggling with eating disorders. I struggled with anorexia and bulimia for about 15 years growing up, been in recovery now for over 10. And that's really what prompted me to open that nonprofit, because I just know firsthand how expensive, first of all, eating disorder treatment is, and then also how important it is to get treatment for an eating disorder, because it's just highest mortality rate of all mental illness. So that really has always kind of served like to be the heart of the business, has been the nonprofit. Like a portion of all of the sales goes to the foundation. And that's really what has always kind of kept me going on hard days with the business, because we've been around, we're going into our 5th year with the boutique, and a lot has changed over the last, well, the entire time, but specifically over the last couple of years, so much has changed in the business. And if it weren't for the foundation, if it weren't for having that and knowing that tangibly we are doing good things, like I would have been out. Like it's pandemic and just, it's so much, right? Like trying to run a business normally is challenging, but then throw in a never ending pandemic and it's just been one thing after another. But yeah, the business has definitely evolved significantly, specifically since the start of the pandemic. We've always been inclusive, size inclusive. That's always been one of our core values of the boutique is size inclusion. And that has to do with the foundation and all of that. But we were doing what's called fast fashion. So for those that don't know what fast fashion is, it's producing a massive amount of clothes very quickly. It's a high turnover. So it's more cheaply made things very, very fast. So you can just think of it as like this constant churning of clothes, right? Like we live in a society where overconsumption is a real thing, and clothing is seen as disposable. And during the pandemic, the first part of the pandemic, we did really well with fast fashion, like really well. So we have our brick and mortar storefront. And during the early 2020, we obviously closed the store. We were closed for a good 5 or 6 months, I believe it was. But during that time, we ended up doing all online, like live selling, just like churning through clothes at a ridiculous pace. We actually had to lease a warehouse space because there was so many clothes. Like we had a 5,000 square foot warehouse full of clothes.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's interesting at the time too, because this was mid 2020, and keep in mind I had a baby in May 2020. So let's just put that out there. It's been an interesting couple of years for sure. But it's interesting because we just kind of were doing it. Like I never really stopped, because it was just like, do what you have to do to survive, right? We were in this mode of survival, and I never really stopped and looked at what we were doing. I never took that moment to say, is this in line with what I want my business to be? And so this continued throughout 2020. But then a lot of things happened with the business. We lost a couple of key members of our staff, and which ended up being a huge blessing. But at that time, it was like, oh crap, like this is not good, right? But what that did was it really gave me that time to stop and look at everything we were doing. And there was this one moment, it was December 2020, January 2021, right around then, that I remember walking into our warehouse. And again, it was a 5,000 square foot warehouse, which is pretty stinking massive. It was just like lined with rows of clothes. And then we had bins. So bins were just stacked on top of each other. And there were clothes just on all the racks, on all the bins. Under the racks were more bins. I mean, it was everywhere, right? And I remember going in there to prep for this big live sale. I was probably showing 100 new pieces or something. And for some reason, I like just opened my eyes and I saw this. I saw all these clothes, cheaply made clothes. Like some of them already had holes in it. Like the cuts were just like I was looking at them like, I can't wear this. Like I can't even show this because I can't try it on because it's cut so off, right? And then I saw the plastic. So in the fast fashion industry, things come individually on a plastic hanger and then individually wrapped in plastic. So much plastic. And we actually didn't have room in the trash can in our warehouse space. We had a corner in our warehouse that was dedicated to trash because we would have to like farm it out as there became space in our trash area. So that moment really prompted a massive change in our business. I started to look into fast fashion, and the more I learned, the more it became so clear to me that this could not continue. I could not in good I could not continue on that trajectory and be in line with my values because like fast fashion uses child labor. Fast fashion, the workers, like we don't really often think of this, but human beings made these clothes and they are being thrown away. Like in our society, we're taught that you can't rewear an outfit. You need something new every time you go somewhere. And so it's created this disposable idea of your clothing, and human beings made that. A human being that didn't get paid or got paid very, very little or was abused by the upper people in the factory. And then you have to think about where do all of these clothes end up that I'm throwing away? Average American, I'm in America, throws away 81 pounds of clothing a year. 81 pounds. You know where that ends up? It ends up in a landfill. You know what most of our clothing is made out of? Polyester. Polyester is a form of plastic. Plastic does not biodegrade. So it is filling up our landfills. And then yeah, there's just so many issues with the fashion industry. And I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm not going to do this. And my husband is my business partner. And I was telling him, I was just going off. I was like, child labor, they use children and women and landfills and the environment. Like I was just on one, right? And Kevin, he looked at me and he was like, you're going to lose the entire business. And I'm like, I don't care. I don't care, because if the pandemic taught us one thing, it's that the actions of one impact us all. I can sit here and say, my business is not that big. What I'm doing, it's probably not making that big a deal in the grand scheme of things, but it has never been more clear in our society that one person's actions have a ripple effect. And it is so easy to make excuses for ourselves. And in reality, like I am a small business. What I personally do, it doesn't matter as compared to what all these big corporations do, but it has to start somewhere. And just like risking the business to do the right thing was the entire theme of 2021. And it's been quite the journey, Kelly. It's been quite the journey.
Well, I do know a little bit of your journey because we are in a couple of groups together. So I've been by your side online throughout a lot of this. So all the pieces. I mean, first you saw the plastic waste that your warehouse was creating with all of the sales you were doing, and the sheer volume of that you couldn't. It was overflowing
Yeah.
your trash bins
Mhm. Yeah,
between
it
pickups,
was. Yeah.
and then you looked wider to your whole warehouse and you realized that a lot of the pieces that you were selling were poorly constructed. And
Yeah.
I mean, I know what you were saying when you like, if you pick up a shirt and it's cut wrong or something and it fits weird, and people are buying those things, throwing them on, using them to go out, not maybe go out, but like work out or
Yeah.
sleep in or whatever, and then throwing them away a couple months later
Yeah.
because they've got holes, they're falling apart because it's not good quality.
Yeah.
And I mean, we can say, oh, but we're just passing them on to someone else who's less fortunate. But the truth is that no thrift shop, no charity keeps stuff that is subpar and full of holes and falling apart either.
Nope.
So
You
yeah,
know what we do? They ship them off overseas. That's what,
right.
at least what it happens in the States. That's sadly the truth of what happens to the majority of clothes that are donated is they get shipped off overseas. They just end up in landfills, and so like I mentioned, polyester is the primary thing that most of our fast fashion is made out of. It's cheap. It's a cheaply it's a cheap fabric, excuse me. And it's plastic, right? I said it's plastic. So, and it doesn't biodegrade. So what's happening is it's emitting toxins into the air. And so we're literally killing these countries with all of our waste. Like
Yeah, well,
it's
and we could get into climate change. We could get into more
absolutely.
things, but
Yep.
let's get back to what you are doing. So, as you said, one person
Mhm.
can start a ripple effect. So, tell me the decisions that you have made in your business, in your store, that are decisions that you are making that even if they might cost more and might not be what everybody is looking for, how are you trying to be that first drop of water that starts the ripple?
Yeah. So beginning of 2021, when we decided that we were going to switch everything, we spent a good couple of months, first of all, figuring out what our values are. Who are we and what impact do we want to leave in the world? And so that was how we started. We had to get very, very clear on our mission and what we were trying to do as a company. And so we came up with our mission statement we have three different pillars: sustainability, inclusion, and social justice. So at the very beginning, when I was, just figuring out how to switch an entire business model, and it's hard, like we were successful at fast fashion. I had ran my store like that for 4 years at that point. And so that's all I knew. And that's the status quo in the business. Like that is how fashion industries are run. So what we had to do was really go back and define like, okay, who are we? What kind of impact do we want? So those three pillars that I mentioned, sustainability, inclusion, and social justice, those became our checks. So everything that we were doing, we filtered through those checks. Like, is this sustainable? Okay, what's it made out of? Who made it? Inclusion. We're trying really hard to be representative in our vendors that we carry. So, and that goes along with social justice too. So we've really tried hard we do a lot of research into our vendors. So we had about 100 vendors in 2020. We're down to maybe 20 now, and each one of them we've researched extensively. We've asked them the hard questions of who made this, where does it go, where does it come from, like all the questions that we learn to have to ask people. And what kind of went along with that too was making that commitment to be representative, because I like to say that inclusion without representation is just words. So I can sit here and say, yes, we stand for all the social justice movements. I stand behind women, I stand behind Black and Indigenous people. But if my actions as a business owner don't represent that, then it's just words. It does nobody any good. So for lack of a better way to say this, put your money where your mouth is, right? Like if you're going to sit here and tell me that these things are important to you, then I need to see it. And so we've worked really, really hard to do that. And we actually we're working on creating our impact report for 2021. It's wild to see these numbers. And we have reached 90% of our vendors are women owned. 90% of the companies that we bring on to carry are owned by women. 41% are Black, Indigenous, people of color owned. And like that means so much to me. Like when I saw those numbers, when we actually calculated it out, it was like, oh my gosh, we actually did it. Like we actually did it. And we're going to continue to do it because it's the right thing to do. And yeah, put your money where your mouth is. Like if you say you support this, then let's support it.
Well,
And
it feels
yeah.
like with the foundation and obviously your
Mhm.
experience, um, with the foundation with eating disorders and everything, and then to open a boutique that was size inclusive.
Yeah.
Because I know that was kind of first, right? Like
First and foremost. Yep. Yep.
sizes for every
Mhm.
body size,
Yep.
height, weight, everything that you could cover. And now it just feels like a natural progression that it's beyond that, and it's bigger into the Black and Indigenous people of color, but also recognizing the people that are behind every step of the process, no
Absolutely.
matter what product you're selling, whether
Yep.
it's clothing or an accessory, a hat, a belt, a candle, like
Yeah.
whatever it is that you're selling.
Yeah, we like to know, or we do at this point know about our vendors. So when it's a lot easier when we're in store with customers and they'll pick up a candle and we'll say, that candle was made by a Black woman who employs people at a fair and living wage, primarily mothers.
Mhm.
And it makes a big difference because I think we're really going to see businesses evolve over these next several years. And I do think a lot of it had to do with the pandemic is we've just all been shaken up and I don't even know, right? Like
Right.
you
We're
and I were
still
talking
being
before
taken
this.
up.
We're like, I don't really know what's happening, but here we are and we're okay. Um, but I think we're going to really start to see a lot more businesses be upfront about their values and be upfront about the impact that they're making because I want to know. I
Mhm.
want to know that I'm supporting, X, Y, and Z with my dollars. And I'm excited to be here for it because I think we're going to only continue to see that evolve and grow because people are excited about it, I think.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Tell me what the reaction of your customers has been in the store and online to these major changes that you're making. Good
Uh,
or bad?
that's
Like,
a good question, Kelly. It's been it. So when we were initially doing it, we got so much pushback, like so much pushback, because our customers at that point were very used to a $10 t-shirt.
right.
$5, $10. It's like, that's cheap. That's going to be here fast. I love it. Let's do it. Right. When I started to switch everything and be much more vocal about our values. Like I decorated our whole store in rainbows. Rainbow flags are everywhere in the store now. We got a lot of people saying, you can't do that. You can't say that as a business. I'm like, watch me. And I've kind of joked before. I'm like, who's gonna fire me? Like it's supposed to be a joke, but I think it's funny. But yeah, we lost a lot of customers. We lost a lot. But what we gained was so much more because in 2020, I remember feeling very like disconnected with what we were doing. It was like a hamster wheel, right? Like you're going and you're doing, but something isn't right and something isn't working, but you don't know what that is and you can't identify it. And looking back now, it was like, oh, we were not in line with our values. Like we were in a massive crisis and we didn't even know. And it is so easy as a small business owner to listen to everybody's opinion. And I had so many people tell me, you can't do that. You can't say that. Like, this is how it is. Like, business owners, you are not supposed to say you are, and everything is politicized now, but you're not supposed to say Black Lives Matter. You're not supposed to say all the things that it's like, I'm gonna do it anyways. And so, yeah, we lost a lot of people. We lost a lot of people, but we've gained a lot more. We've gained so much more than what we've lost, so much more. And I have a clear conscience. That's another thing. It's like we were working in this way that was not sustainable, and it wasn't good for humans and the environment and the planet and animals and all those things. So I have zero regrets about doing it, but it was definitely a whirlwind this last year.
So let's
Yeah.
talk about something exciting. You have, and I don't know how much of a secret this is, so I'm not giving it away. I'm going to ask you if you want to kind of
Yeah.
like give it away yourself. But you have something really exciting coming up in the next couple months that
So,
the switch has allowed you to do.
okay. Let me tell you the story, Kelly. So, like I mentioned a lot, size inclusion has always been one of our main pillars from the get-go. Like that, lots has changed in the business. Size inclusion never has. Always been very important to me to be as inclusive with sizing as possible. But did you know that hardly any sustainable brands carry above a size large?
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, that would be diet culture. Diet culture teaches us that morals and body are attached, and it's stupid because that's so not true. But when we made that decision to go into sustainable fashion, I was like, I can't find anything above a size large. Like, how are we going to do this? Like, I can't, this, it was two very equally weighty things, and they just were not coexisting. And so it was last year. I was like, well, we're going to do it ourselves. So we have our own line coming out. I'm named the line Hope Continues, and it is ethically made, sustainable fashions for the sexy minimalist. That's what I'm calling it. I know, because I love the minimalism, but I also want to be a little sexy, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Who doesn't
Um,
want to feel sexy?
I know, and I'm very excited because we're launching in spring of this year. We actually just got our second round of samples in yesterday, and I immediately went into the boutique and tried them all on, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love them. I love them.
Hey,
So we're using hemp, organic cotton, and linen, and it's going to be in sizes extra small through 5X. And I'm so excited to provide this size inclusion in ethically made clothes,
that's
and
awesome.
very, very cute. Like,
So is the
I'm
idea
super
that you're
excited.
providing basically like a capsule wardrobe with
Mhm.
these clothes so that people
Yes.
can have all the mix and
Yep.
match pieces and everything?
Yes. So we designed it like that. So like I said, it's a 7-piece collection. We have a pair of pants, a pair of shorts, a couple of tank tops, cardigan, and then 2 dresses. And I mean, obviously I designed it. Can you even believe that? Like, I did that. And I'm like,
So
I
you're
am
a
definitely,
designer.
I'm not. That's
You're
the
adding
funny
design
thing.
to your
But
list of accomplishments and titles.
seriously, but I'm really excited for it. And hemp, let me just tell you how much I love the material hemp. It's like the most sustainable fabric. It's naturally biodegradable, and it hardly takes any water to produce. So we have a good portion of our line being made from hemp, and I'm super excited about it.
That is awesome. And
Yes.
something to really, for everybody to look forward to.
Yeah, it should be in March. Should be in March is when we are provide. I mean, supply chains have been
So
a
if
little
our
lengthy.
listeners are interested in making sure they are among the first to know when it's available, how do they do that?
Best place to follow us is our boutique's Instagram. So that's maryrose.boutique. And that, like, in our link tree, it sends you all you can really find anything if you just follow us on Instagram,
And
maryrose.boutique.
we will tag you and include all your links in our posts as well when this one comes out. So anybody can hopefully find you everywhere. And I am super excited to see the pieces, to see where you take things, because you are disrupting this industry in a huge way.
It's time. It's time. So it's 70% of people identifying as women in the States wear a size 14 or above. And the sustainable fashion industry is not available to them. It's
Well, I was
stupid.
going to say like a 14, 16 is considered
Extra
extra
large.
large, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And so yeah, it's not okay. It's really not okay. And there's a lot of barriers with sustainable fashion, and size inclusion is just one of the many barriers to it. Like there's a lot of problems with the fashion industry. But a girl's got to focus. So this is where I chose to focus, because there's once we disrupt this part, then we'll go into all the other things. But right now we're really working to disrupt that size inclusion aspect of the ethical fashion.
Well, I am super excited for you. I hope that anybody listening will come and follow you and be excited as well as you head towards that launch.
Thank you. I'm very like it's this is going to be a good year. It's going to be a good year. 2021 was really about finding out who we were and really narrowing that down. And then this year, I'm just looking forward to leaning into all that and just staying true to my values and really operating in that space of you can have a successful business and also do social good. Like that they are not mutually exclusive anymore. And I'm excited to be here for that for sure.
I love that. Thank you for coming back to the
Yay.
podcast,
Thanks for having me.
for being here. So, everybody, we will have the links in our show notes and on our social media pages. So please follow Julie, follow the boutique, and support them with their launch of this new line. And
Yay.
start to be more sustainable in your choices.
Yep.
Thanks, Julie.
Thanks, Kelly.